Good morning. Now today's lecture is about arches of the foot, and we will discuss also its applied aspect. Now if you have ever noticed this wet footprint, then these footprint they have this characteristic impression. Here the impression is made by the portion of the heel, by the lateral margin of the sole, and the portion which is known as the ball of the foot, which is just lying underneath the head of the metatarsal. This is the ball of the foot, and then there is a five impression of the distal phalanges, pad of the distal phalanges. But there is a characteristic gap between this portion of the heel and the medial portion of the ball of the foot, where the first metatarsal is head of the first metatarsal is lying. So this is a characteristic arch portion which doesn't make any impression on this medial portion. That's why this portion has this gap. So this is a representation of the medial longitudinal arch. Now even in the lateral portion, the bones or the impression, they are not uniform. So there is also a lateral longitudinal arch, but this lateral one is much flatter than that of the medial one. And even if we compare this impression side to side in this transverse plane, again the bones, they don't have uniform distribution. The impression is not uniform, so there is also a transverse arch. Hence the arches, if we see them in this articulated foot, this portion has two longitudinal arch, a more curved medial longitudinal arch, a flatter lateral longitudinal arch, and a transverse arch. So there are three arches. And again it is shown, this is the portion showing this medial longitudinal arch. Here it is shown a flatter one, which is the lateral longitudinal arch, and this is much distally placed at the distal portion of the metatarsal and the portion related to the distal portion of tarsal and metatarsal portion. This portion transversely lying arch, this is the transverse arch. Now this integrity of these arches, they are similar to those which maintains the joint. So it depends on the contour or the shape of the bone, then the ligament which support these arches, and also the related muscles which because of the traction maintains these arches. Now, often this arches of the foot, they are compared with this stone arch bridge, though they are not 100% comparable, as with respect to this stone arch bridge, which is a rigid solid structure, the arches of foot, they are much mobile and resilient structure. Still there are some similarities. Now this stone arch bridge is made of several stone in this lower aspect, and its summit, the center of this portion, this stone portion, it has this keystone, which is a wedge shaped stone. And similarly, in case of the arches, there is at the summit there is a keystone, like in case of this medial longitudinal arch, this is the head of the talus lying between the navicular and the calcaneus sustentaculum talli. So and in case of the lateral longitudinal arch, it is the cuboid bone. So they are again well shaped, and because of their inherent shape they provide a stability to the arches or to the joint, and in turn to the arches. Second is these stone they are kept in places by these staples, which are the iron bar bridging these stone portion. So again, in case of the arches, the bones they are joined together, joined to each other by this ligament. Like in case of this lateral longitudinal arch, we know these are short and long plantar ligament, or in case of this medial longitudinal arch, here is a ligament which supports this head of the talus, which is known as the spring ligament. Now third is these two ends, they are tied by a tie beam. So again, in case of the arches of foot, they are again tied by a tie beam which runs from this posterior pillar to the anterior pillar, and these tie beams they are also known as bowstring. Like in case of this medial longitudinal arch, the bowstring here is the tendon of the flexor hallucis longus. And fourth thing is there is suspension rope or suspension portion which suspends the arch, and it give a traction to the arch, and same traction is here provided by the muscles, and the muscles related to the medial longitudinal arch, it is the tibialis anterior, or in case of this lateral longitudinal arch, the traction is provided by the peroneus longus. So they heighten the arch. So there are several similarities, and we will discuss them one by one. Now what this bowstring, they run from this one end of the arch to the another end of the arch, and when these end they are separated, there is a higher traction on this bowstring, and when they are approximated nearer to each other, then the tension is lesser. So this is how this energy has been the energy is transformed through this mechanism of the bowstring. Let's start with this medial longitudinal arch. Now here it is shown in the sectional view. This is the calcaneus, this is the talus, this is the navicular, and here it is shown this is the medial cuneiform, and this is the metatarsal, vas metatarsal. Now in the sectional view we can make out this is the arch between this proximally placed calcaneus and distally placed medial 3 metatarsal. So between these head of the metatarsal and the heel calcaneus, the portion, this medial margin, this is arched, and this arched medial margin, it forms this medial longitudinal arch, and this arch is a very high up arch, and at the same time because of these multiple bones and the ligaments involved, this is extremely resilient. So the medial longitudinal arch, it is the arch portion between this proximally placed calcaneus and distally placed the head of the medial 3 metatarsal. So the bones that it includes are calcaneus, which is the heel bone, then this head of the talus, navicular, 3 cuneiform, medial, intermediate and lateral, and medial 3 metatarsal. Now its apex or summit, it is at this trochlear surface of the talus, articulating with the tibia, this convex portion, and its two pillars are the proximal pillar is the medial tubercle of the calcaneus and the distal pillar or extremity is at the heads of the medial three metatarsal bone. So factors maintaining the medial longitudinal arch, they are again similar to that in the joint. The factors are bony factor, ligamentous and muscles. Now starting with the bones. So bony factor, in case of this medial longitudinal arch, the head of the talus, it is supported by this shelf like process from the calcaneus, which is known as the sustentaculum talli, and also anteriorly it is supported by the navicular. But these two bones, they contribute very less to the stability of this arch. Now the ligaments, they are more important contributor than that of the bone, but alone they are inadequate to maintain the arch, especially during long standing. So the ligament which are most important is the plantar aponeurosis, which run between the posterior to the anterior pillar as a tie beam. Then spring ligament, which supports the head of the talus. This is the second most important ligament, but it is also which is more tear prone, more damage prone. Then also those ligament which run between the talus and the calcaneus, they support also the anterior fiber of the deltoid ligament. It is also an important contributor. Now the muscles, they are indispensable to the maintenance of this arch. They are most important. Without these, or after the paralysis of these muscles, the arch sinks. So the most important muscle is the flexor hallucis longus, which acts as a boosting between the anterior and the posterior pillar, and this along with the medial two slip which it gives to the flexor digitorum longus as it crosses in the form of the plantar chiasma. So the flexor hallucis longus and its medial two slips to the flexor digitorum longus, this is the most important contributor to maintain the arch. Then second is again the muscle which is related to this medial portion of the arch, so or the portion of the foot. This is the abductor hallucis and the medial half of the flexor digitorum brevis. Then the tibialis posterior and the anterior, they invert and adduct the foot, and thus they heighten the arch and thus they maintain the arch. Now we will discuss the contribution of these one by one. Now starting with the ligamentous support. Most important ligamentous support is the plantar aponeurosis, which runs as a tie beam between this posterior pillar of the calcaneus to the anterior pillar, which is the medial three head of the metatarsal. So these medial three slips, they contribute in the stability of the medial longitudinal arch, and when they are taut, when they are shortened by the dorsiflexion of the toe, this arch is heightened. This is evident by this truss and windlass mechanism. This truss and windlass mechanism, which is in case of the sailboat, is used. So in case of this flexion of the toe or in the plantigrade position, there is no shortening of this plantar aponeurosis. But in case of the dorsiflexion of the toe, this plantar aponeurosis, it is shortened and this arch is heightened. So it provides it the inherent stability. So this is the truss and windlass mechanism working in relation to the arches. Next important contributor is this plantar calcaneo-navicular ligament, which runs between this self-like projection from the calcaneus, which is the sustentaculum talli, to the navicular, and this is a ligament complex having the superomedial, inframedial and lateral part, and it is supported by this tibialis posterior ligament. The fibrous band from these support this ligament, and this ligament is also known as spring ligament, since lying between this sustentaculum tali and the navicular, it provides the support. Because of it contains the elastic fiber, it provides this elastic support to this head of the talus, which is the highest point of the arch. And when it sinks, this highest point of the arch is also sinks, and because of that this arch flattens. So it is one of the ligamentous support which is also most commonly torn, and this arch flattens. This is the portion which is commonly torn. Now this deltoid ligament, by its two set of fiber, anterior fiber which are known as this tibiotalar part and the tibionavicular part, which is the portion of the superficial fiber system. So the anterior tibiotalar part and tibionavicular part, now there are several talocalcaneal ligament which runs between this talus and the calcaneus. So they also support this arch, and they includes the medial and lateral talocalcaneal ligament, as well as there is a interosseous talocalcaneal ligament. So they also support the arch. And finally, about these muscles, as we already know, muscles are indispensable to the maintenance of this medial longitudinal arch, and the most important muscle which is most efficient in maintaining this arch is this tendon of flexor hallucis longus and the slips medial two, the slips that it gives to these medial two digits. So this is most efficient in maintaining this medial longitudinal arch, as it passes from posterior pillar just beneath the sustentaculum tali to the anterior pillar, as it passes between these sigmoid bone being attached to the distal phalanx of the hallux. So it ties this anterior and posterior pillar together, and it acts as a bowstring between these two. And as it crosses in the plantar chiasm to this tendon of the flexor digitorum longus, it gives two strong slips to these medial two digits. So the main tendon of the flexor digitorum longus and its two distal slips that it gives to this medial two digits, it acts as a bowstring between this anterior pillar, which is at the head of the metatarsal of this medial three digits, and posteriorly at the calcaneus. So it ties these two pillars together with its main slip and its two distal slips. Now additional contribution is provided by these two muscles of the sole which is attached to the medial three digits. So this is the abductor hallucis and the medial half of the flexor digitorum brevis. These provide additional contribution to the maintenance of this medial longitudinal arch, as it also lies between the posterior and anterior pillars. So inverter of the foot, they are tibialis anterior and tibialis posterior. Now individually, tibialis anterior being attached to the medial cuneiform and the base of the first metatarsal, by its direct pull it raises the apex of this medial longitudinal arch and thus helps in somewhat maintaining the arch. But as an inverter and adductor, these tibialis anterior and tibialis posterior, they raise the medial border of the foot above the ground, so they are not able to maintain the integrity of this. Now about the lateral longitudinal arch. Lateral longitudinal arch is evident because there is unequal impression of the portion forming this arch. This lateral margin of the foot, the contributing bones or the portion, they form an unequal impression. Of course, this arch is shallower, and since it contains lesser bones, so it is less resilient. So this shallower lateral longitudinal arch, it is formed by this lateral process of the calcaneus, cuboid and fourth and fifth metatarsal. The pillars, they are at the lateral process of the calcaneal tubercle posteriorly and the heads of the fourth and fifth metatarsal anteriorly. Now similar to the medial one, here also the contributor are threefold: bones, ligaments and muscles. Now the bones, they are of less importance because the shape and these, they don't contribute at all in the maintaining the arch. Now ligaments, they contribute more, especially the lateral part of the plantar aponeurosis and the long and the short plantar ligament. They all contribute in maintaining the arch laterally. Now the muscles, they are the most significant role in maintaining the arch, especially the tendon laterally lying, this tendon of the fibularis longus, and this is again aided by the lateral two tendon of the flexor digitorum longus along with the pull of the flexor accessorius, as well as the lateral half of the flexor digitorum brevis and abductor digiti minimi. So pull of these maintain the arch from the plantar aspect, and working from above, this peroneus brevis and tertius, they act as a sling and it heightens the arch. This lateral portion of the plantar aponeurosis, which runs from the posterior pillar, which is calcaneus, to this head of the lateral two metatarsal. So it acts as a tie beam between these two pillar, anterior pillar, which is the head of the lateral two metatarsal, to the heel bone calcaneus. So it acts as a tie beam, lateral portion. Now next is these two ligaments which run from this posterior pillar to the bone near summit, which is the cuboid. So they run from the calcaneus to the cuboid. Thus they support this shallow lateral longitudinal arch, and these ligaments are long plantar ligament and short plantar ligament. Starting with the long plantar ligament, this long plantar ligament is attached to the plantar surface just anterior to the calcaneal tuberosity and to this anterior tubercle, and this ligament is lying more superficially. And from here, from this proximal part, the fibers, they are attached to the tubercle and ridge over this cuboid, and from here the slips, they diverge and they are attached to the bases of the second, third, fourth and even to the fifth metatarsal. So in this way, this ligament, long plantar ligament, though it is thinner, it supports this shallow lateral longitudinal arch, and the fibers of this long plantar ligament and the concavity on the cuboid, it creates a tunnel for the passage of the tendon of fibularis longus. Now the next is this short but stout short plantar ligament. Now this short plantar ligament, it is attached to the adjacent concavity of the calcaneus and the cuboid bone. So it is attached to the anterior tubercle and the concavity just anterior to it, and from here the fiber they run distally and they are attached to the tubercle and the concavity just posterior to it on the cuboid bone. So it bridges the concavity on the adjacent two surfaces of the calcaneus and the cuboid, and this manner this prevents the sagging or drooping down of this cuboid bone, and it supports the lateral longitudinal arch. So these are indispensable: long plantar ligament and short plantar ligament. Now single most contributor to this integrity of this lateral longitudinal arch is the tendon of this fibularis longus, and it does so by its action through these 2 points or twofold. One is its passes, oblique passes, as it passes from the lateral border of calcaneus to the lateral border of the cuboid, and then it passes obliquely beneath this groove in the cuboid, and then it is attached at the plantar aspect on the medial portion of the medial cuneiform and the base of the first metatarsal. Now its attachment and its passes, it supports this lateral portion of the summit at the cuboid and the posterior pillar. So it acts as a bowstring in this portion, and through its action as it depresses this medial border of the foot, it raises the lateral border and it causes the eversion, and through its action it raises this portion of the summit which is at the cuboid. So its action raises the summit, and thus it makes the arch more concave and raises its summit, and it also supports the drooping of this portion of the cuboid through its oblique passes. So through these twofold it maintains this shallow lateral longitudinal arch. The transverse arch is actually half of an arch in a foot, and this portion it involves the distal portion of the tarsals and the adjacent portion of the metatarsal. So it involves this medial, intermediate and lateral cuneiform and cuboid and these 5 metatarsal. And in one foot only half of the dome is formed, and when the other foot is joined the full arc is formed, full dome is formed, and the base of this arch it lies at the lateral border of the foot, and summit it lies at the medial border of the foot. Thus this transverse arch is formed. Now this transverse arch is evident because the weight distribution or the footprint is not equal on its all component. So thus make it, so the transverse arch, this is actually half of an arch in a foot and is completed by the other foot, and it is seen based in the region of the cuneiform. Here the curvature is more prominent, and the bones involved are the distal portion of the tarsals, the 3 cuneiform, medial, intermediate and lateral cuneiform, and the cuboid and adjacent portion of this 5 metatarsals. And main stabilizer is the ligament which bind the cuneiform and the metatarsal bases and their head, and the portion, the muscle which maintains this arch is the oblique passes of the tendon of the fibularis longus, and distally this portion is supported by the transverse head of the adductor hallucis. Often this arch is described as a proximal portion and a distal portion. The proximal portion, which is related to the tarsals, the three cuneiform and the cuboid, and this portion is supported by the oblique passage of the fibulus longus, and a distal portion which is related to the head of the metatarsal, and this portion it is supported by the transverse head of the adductor hallucis as well as this deep transverse metatarsal ligaments. So this shows the support from this oblique passage of the tendon of the fibulus longus as passes from the groove beneath the cuboid to the medial cuneiform and the base of the adjacent portion of the first metatarsal. Now this oblique passage, it supports running transversely, it supports this transverse arch and support it, and this is the portion of this transverse head of the adductor hallucis, and as it is attached near the head of this metatarsal, so it supports the distal portion of this transverse arch, and as it is evident, this is the portion of the deep transverse metatarsal ligament, so it also supports the or provide the ligamentous support to this transverse arch. So this is the main support. Now let's discuss the applied aspect of these arches of the foot, and this is the normal walk cycle. And the walk cycle, it includes two phases. One, when the foot is on the ground, this is known as the stance phase, which is the 60% of the stride, and second is the swing phase, when the foot is off the ground, that is the 40%. Now the stance phase, it includes these 5 phases, and it starts with the heel strike. When the heel or the posterior pillar, it makes contact with the ground, this is known as the initial contact or the heel strike. Now with the heel strike, the foot is forward and the body is behind. Next, the whole foot is planted on the ground, where the heel as well as this lateral margin and the anterior pillar both are on the ground. So this is known as foot flat. Still the foot is forward, body is behind. Now in case of mid stance, the whole foot is on the ground and the body is in line with the planted foot. Then with this heel lift, the contraction of the long flexor tendon has started. So in case of the heel lift, the heel is off the ground and the portion of the toe is only on the ground, and is in this condition the other foot, it makes contact with the ground. So this is also known as double stance. So heel lift and double stance is this. Then in this case, the foot is behind and the body is coming forward, moving towards the other foot. And in case of toe off, this portion of the foot is now off the ground, going to the swing phase. So this is the last phase of the stance. After this, the swing phase begins. So this is the stance cycle. Now the contact that it makes, the portion or the weight of the foot is taken successively on the heel, then on the lateral border, then the ball of the foot, and last part to leave the ground is the anterior pillar of the medial longitudinal arch and the medial 3 digits. So this is the portion that makes the stance face, and in last portion, when the toe is off, then the portion of this the contraction of the long flexor tendon is assisted by the contraction of the lumbrical, which prevents the buckling of the toes during the toe off phase. And in case of running, the heel, it remains off the ground throughout, but the takeoff point is still the anterior pillar of the medial longitudinal arch. Now the arches of foot, they perform various functions which is essential for locomotion and day-to-day activities. So starting with first, which is the shock absorber. Now when one lands at speed, as for example from a height, or when they leap, the toes and then the forefoot, it takes the first thrust of the weight before the heel strikes the ground. And this is exactly the reverse of walking or running. In that case, the heel takes the first strike, initial contact, remember. Now in case of this landing, the forefoot, it takes the first thrust, and as the foot is composed of numerous bone, as well as in case of landing, the forefoot is in extension, so the the arch is heightened, it is in the more curvature, and because of this heightened arch and the numerous bone which are connected by ligament and tendon, it has considerable resiliency, very flexibility, and that allows it to deform with each ground contact, and thereby much of this thrust is absorbed. Now next important is the weight bearing. Now the arches, they distribute the weight over the foot, tarsal and metatarsal bone, which are arranged in these longitudinal and transverse arches, and they are again supported by the flexible tendon as well as ligament, which not only support them but also check them, the undue movement of them, and that adds to the weight bearing capability and resiliency of the foot. And the weight bearing is divided approximately equal between this hind foot, which is the heel, calcaneus, and this forefoot, which is related to the head of the metatarsal. Now the forefoot, it has generally 4 points of contact. A large one, which is the medial one, and that includes the two sesamoid bone related with the first metatarsal head and the head of the second metatarsal. And the lateral one, they include the heads of the third to fifth metatarsal. So these are the 4 point of contact, and that makes with the ground. And this first metatarsal, it supports the major share of the load, and this lateral one, they are only for providing the balance. And next is obviously it is acting as a lever for propulsion. Now this propulsive act, it is only because these portion of the muscle, they not only act as the arches, they not only act as a shock absorber, but they are also acting as a springboard for propelling it during walking or running or even jumping. And these resilient arches, they add to the foot's ability to adapt to the changes according to the contour of the surfaces. Now the weight of the body is transmitted to the talus from the tibia, and then this propulsive action of these great muscles of the calf, it is enhanced by arching of the foot and the flexion of the toes, and this sternocalcaneus, it plantar flex, not a rigid single bone but a very mobile foot. So that's add to the is propulsive act. Next is the protective action. Now, being made of multiple bones which take the form of these several arches, longitudinal and transverse arches, this and these bones, they are connected by various ligament and tendon. It makes the foot a very flexible one, and because of this flexibility, they deform according to the surfaces they are in contact with. So they protect the soft tissue and underlying vascular portion and the nerve. Now next is stabilizing the body. Obviously the foot is a great stabilizer, and it acts as acts for the balance and coordination, and this is because this portion of the medial longitudinal arch, this is for propulsive act, and this lateral one, this is mainly for this coordination and for balance. Now as we look into this portion of this gait cycle or walking cycle, as the at the moment of the heel strike, the extensor of the foot and toes, they contract and then they gradually relax to prevent the toes from slapping on the ground. We put the foot nicely, not like abruptly, so it prevents the toes from slapping on the ground. And when the heel is rising from the ground, the medial toes, they are gradually extended, and these extended toes, they elongate the long flexor tendon, the flexor hallucis longus and flexor digitorum longus, and this increases the force of their subsequent contraction during the swing phase. So they maintain this balance, stabilize the body during movement, during running and walking. And finally, they are essential for this bipedal and plantigrade motion of the humans, as humans are, unlike the other mammals, they have this plantigrade motion. Other mammals, they are digitigrade, they only place their forefoot while walking or running, but we put the whole foot. That's why we are known as the plantigrade. And these arches, they are essential for this propulsive as well as this balance act of motion, and this is only possible because of these arches of the foot. Next is the anomalies related to the arches of foot. Now in case of normal arch, this is the medial one which is high up, then the lateral one is the shallow. Now in case of high arch print, which is the pes cavus, in this case the medial one is much heightened and the lateral one, it makes more impression because the alignment is towards the lateral, to the outside, and that is seen in case of Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease and in case of poliomyelitis. And pes planus, in which case as there is evident, even the impression of the medial margin of the foot is there, so the medial longitudinal arch, it is not formed, and that is seen in case of infant because they have not that developed arch in them, as well as the deposition of fat in the pad. So this is normal in case of infant. Also it is seen in it is not developed in some population, but otherwise the risk factor to pes planus is obesity and rheumatoid arthritis. Now next common clinical condition related to the arches is this plantar fasciitis, and this is seen among those having ill-fitted or poorly formed footwear, like those with the high heel, because of which the arches are not properly supported, those having the profession in which they stand for a long time, obesity, runners and sprinters. So because of this constant strain on these arches, the portion of the plantar fascia, plantar aponeursis, the micro tear develop in them, and because of that, this proximal attachment near the heel, it is very painful and even inflamed. And in case of long-term plantar fasciitis, neglected one, it may even lead to the heel spur. Now next is bunion. As we know, this hallux, it is formed by two joints. This joint, which is known as the metatarsophalangeal joint, and there is the interphalangeal joint. Bunion, it develops at the this metatarsophalangeal joint, and the joint, it is now laterally rotated, deformed, and the deformity is due to ill-fitting shoe, mainly the narrow shoe. That's why it is common among the females. And other causes may include rheumatoid arthritis or even poliomyelitis. And this outward deformed metatarsophalangeal joint, they may even slip underneath this second digit, and that causes it to propel outward. And this portion, and this is hammer toe involving this proximal interphalangeal joint, generally affecting the second or third digit. So here this proximal interphalangeal joint is affected. It is painful and deformed. Reason may be again tight fitting shoes or narrow shoes. And when this distal interphalangeal joint, it is affected, it is known as. So that's all about the arches of the foot and its applied aspect as well as the anomalies related. Thank you.